I am long overdue for making a video, so let's go ahead and get going here. I just finished I'm pretty much done with the story. It's actually a book, 46,000 words on the Quebec trial. I have noticed something interesting as I complete each story, and that is I gain new insights into myself and my enemies and other people. It seems like I get a jump in emotional IQ every time I write a story. What I'll be writing next will be the story about when Brent was abducted by a UFO. Because we just finished the Quebec trial story, and the next thing it would be the execution of the Laurie McBride clones. And I will show in the next story what happened with that. But before I go further, I would like to say that at my last hangout with Rule 13, we found out that Antichrist Lizzo and her spacecraft are mysteriously missing. We do not know where they are. So I just wanted to report that they've just vanished. We don't know where Lizzo is or where her spaceship is. Yeah, I'll have a photo of her spaceship off to the side. In the meanwhile, I did write each story that I write. I kind of like have a main character where I try to figure out what was driving them to move the events in the story. And eventually I'm planning on writing a story with Lizo as a main character because she is the one basically who murdered my stepdad, Bill Fuller. Yeah, she did it, okay? And I've had a hard time getting a handle on her, but I think I'm starting to get her figured out. One thing that really gave me an insight into her was reading something that she wrote at her Tumblr page. And I think I'm going to kind of like go into that. Basically what drove Laurie McBride was Laurie felt that she was a clone and that clones were born evil because it's a known fact that clones have fallen angel DNA, okay? So she felt like it wasn't her fault that she was a clone and she was born evil, and she was angry at God that she was born evil and she couldn't help it. Unfortunately, she believed the lie that she was born evil. That is not correct, and my latest story is about how she acted out that lie and how it caused a lot of harm, not only to herself, but to a lot of other people. So that, 46,000 words to show how she acted it out at the Quebec trial. Yeah, Lizzo, I read something that, as I was finishing up the Laurie McBride story, I read something that Lizzo wrote that I think is giving me a handle on her. I think her name was Melissa Jefferson or something like that. Let me go ahead and read it. Melissa hated her feelings. She buried them in a chest in the 5th grade along with her ability to express them. Other people's feelings, on the other hand, was her forte. She could process, decipher, and regurgitate other people's emotions effortlessly. This gift could have taken her through college all the way to a degree in psychology. Distinguished Dr. Jefferson with a PhD and a cozy office, an impressive roster of high-profile, wealthy clients was a shiny idea. Fate would have a different hand for Melissa. Her talents were exhausted on mediating family fights, friend group drama, and charming her way out of confronting her own feelings. Even saying it out loud to herself seemed silly. Something reserved for crybabies and water signs. Typical, when was she? She's obviously into horoscopes. Let me see when her birthday was. Water signs. She apparently identifies with her zodiac sign. Let me see what her... when I was a young teenager, I used to be into that stuff. April 27th, okay. That means she thinks she's a Taurus. An earth sign, eh? I don't believe in that stuff, by the way, but I'm just trying to get into her mind, okay? All right, so, water signs, okay. Okay. Typical Sunday nights started tame. reading or writing fan fiction, and drinking cran apple juice. And then, like clockwork, her father would yell her name, Melissa! Emotionless, she'd get up, dust off her Winnie the Pooh shorts, and make her way downstairs. On the long walk down the hall to the stairs leading to the living room brawl, she'd go through her checklist. Number 1, don't cry. Number 2, stay neutral, don't de-escalate. 3, don't take anything personal. This isn't about you. Personal opinion, if that's how she was raised, that is very unhealthy. Yeah, I can see why she's such a mess. Let's continue. She padded down the carpeted stairs in her old soft socks to see her mother tight-lipped and tear-streaked, thinking, she broke rule number 1, that means don't cry. Her father, Michael, was proud and angry, his big belly filled with self-righteousness. She knew he would be unyielding in his resolve, and at this point her only option was to de-escalate. That would be number 2. Rule number 2. Then her sister, the water sign, and calamity for the evening, sat on the floor nearly fetal, face red and raw with emotion. It's not your fault, Melissa wanted to say. You just didn't follow the rules. You're loved. As I was reading this, I was thinking, she's probably thinking she's not following God's rules right now, like that are in the Bible and everything, or whatever. Yeah, she doesn't care. She's mad at God, I can tell you that right now. Why else would she be the Antichrist? I have to insert my little 2 bits here. But she couldn't say that because she'd be breaking rule number 3. Don't take anything personal. This isn't about you. That is really unhealthy. Those rules are a perfect way to set up somebody with a major case of an identity crisis. Yeah. Okay, if you're not allowed to cry, that means you're not allowed to feel, basically. That's telling you that you don't exist. Yeah. If I was growing up in an environment like that, I would feel like, I don't exist. I'm just a piece of furniture. I'm not allowed to feel. I'm not allowed to think. I'm not allowed to be. You say, so what kind of a person? Well, let's keep going, okay? It wasn't about how Melissa felt, even though she felt like screaming. Vanessa, you didn't do anything wrong. That must be the name of her sister. Dad, you just have pent-up anger because you grew up in the hood of Detroit as a black man in the 60s and 70s. You need a healthy outlet like, I don't know, therapy? This is a waste of all of our time. I literally just wrote the best Sailor Saturn Chibi USA fan fiction ever, and this is killing my vibe. Instead, she decided to hear everyone out. Okay, I can already tell you what she was doing. She was losing herself into others because she was not allowed to be. Okay? She was not allowed to exist. So what she would do is just, she did kind of like what I did growing up. Okay? I was told that everything I did was wrong, and I was the shyest little girl ever. Okay? I almost flunked first grade because of it, because I wouldn't speak a word in the classroom. She kind of did what I did in a way. She just crucified herself and lost herself into a false persona. Okay, she decided to help her. It was the helper persona, okay? To calm her dragon of a father down, to be a translator for her emotional sister, to not take it personal, to stay neutral, to not cry. 9 years later, at her father's funeral, she still never broke the rules. She played her flute and spoke at his memorial. She was present for her mother because it wasn't about her. When other people's emotions bubbled up, she stayed neutral. She sat through both services and she did not cry. She was really convinced as a kid growing up that she was not allowed to exist. I can see that. It wasn't until she excused herself to make a phone call outside did she collapse onto the stairs of the funeral home and weep alone in the cold Detroit snow. It's okay to break the rules sometime. Yeah, if the rules are stupid like that, you should break them all the time, but not the way she did it. Okay? She reminded herself, as long as no one else sees it. Traumas began to compact on Melissa as they do. Humans tend to collect traumas like pebbles on a long hike. They can. And Melissa, I got news for you. You're not the only one in life that has traumas, okay? And you're not the only one that grew up in a poor family that abused you or neglected you. And she's got this magnifying glass on herself, and she just thinks life is so unfair. And that people in life that have their act together and have the connections that she wished she had got it unfairly. And she is as mad as hell about it. This is what I think is going on with her. Humans tend to collect traumas like pebbles on a long hike. We toss them into our backpacks and keep moving forward. Okay? You can tell right now, this is a very angry woman. She was not allowed to be. She was not allowed to feel, think, or be as a child growing up. She was apparently very angry at both of her parents, but was too scared to vent it. Obviously, she probably would have been put out on the streets if she did. And now, she's trying to find a safe way to vent all that anger she felt growing up that she wasn't allowed to vent. Yeah. And her safe way is now being with the one being that she thinks she has a connection with, Satan. That's what I think is going on with her. Traumas began to compact on Melissa as they do. Humans tend to collect traumas like pebbles on a long hike. We toss them into our backpacks and keep moving forward. That is really unhealthy. To just pile up grudges over and not get them out of your system. Very unhealthy. And you know what it's going to result in? An explosion. And that's exactly what's happened to her. Now that she's the Antichrist, she has exploded. All the anger she felt growing up because she couldn't be, because she couldn't exist, because she was a piece of furniture. Yeah, basically. Has now exploded. Some hikers would falter, but Melissa was built for this. She'd carried the stones of her family's traumas uphill for years. She was strong. No, she's a coward. It takes courage to be emotionally vulnerable, to admit when you're angry, to admit when you're scared. She doesn't have the guts to do any of this. When men began to befriend and reject her, saying, "You're too good for me," but not too good to make them feel good, she carried that. Oh, she got so mad. It's not fair that people like Gail Schuler have true love in their life and a connection. She had unfair advantages. Her family was richer than mine. She came from white privilege. That's what she thinks. You know, I'll admit, okay, let me just keep going. When childhood friends began to cut off the strings of her heart, saying, "We can't be friends anymore," she carried that. That means she was as mad as hell. That's what it meant. Mostly at God. When her family separated like dandelion seeds, it seemed like they'd never be together again. Melissa slept on so many couches, floors, and car seats. Sometimes she didn't know if she'd see them again. I hear she was homeless for a while. She lived in her car. If I had to live in a car, I would be dead because the Jesuits gave me a big insomnia problem. I would have died. She carried that. So at least be grateful you were able to sleep in the car, girl. If I was homeless and in a car, I would have been dead. Dying was never an option, though. Sometimes she didn't mind the thought of it. Actually, I think she's a little suicidal right now. Peace and warmth were two things she desperately yearned and hadn't felt fully since the womb. Yeah, I told you she wants connection. Just like the baby is connected with the umbilical cord to their mother, she wants connection. And she's as mad as hell that she doesn't have it. Then one night in the pitch black of the hot, sweaty, roast-infested studio in southeast Houston, she slept in. Yeah, she wondered, why can't I break the rules? She'd seen everyone else in her life break them like popsicle sticks. And she didn't just want to break the rules, she wanted to break them boldly and loudly and annoyingly and honestly and sloppily like everyone else gets to do. It was in that moment, tucked in a thin jacket inside of an 8-foot-high instrument cubby in the inky darkness, it hit her. Is my suffering for a high purpose? Or is my suffering trying to kill me? She cried. She escalated, yet she escalated her anger. She took it personal, but it wasn't enough. She wanted to scream. I told you she's angry. In a microphone, in a sea of shadowy faces. Desperate for connection. She drank whiskey and wove her pain into rock music, and she eats for comfort food because she doesn't have connection in her life. Music is my boyfriend, she declared. See, I told you she wants connection. The only man that kept his baggage to himself, and it healed her. Oh yeah, she had sex with other guys, but it was all a pure lust fest. Now I do believe she is a hypersexual, but I think she also has a need for connection, okay? So sex alone wasn't cutting it for her. She wanted a connection, okay? And she wasn't getting it. And all these guys she had sex with were obviously just doing it just to have sex, and that was it. And then they left her because they didn't really want to connect with her. You say, why wouldn't they connect with her? Well, I think part of the problem is she doesn't know who she is, and she's scared to find out. And it healed her. It gave her voice, reason, and purpose. The pebble-laden hike became lighter with time. The incline eventually evened out to flat, beautiful landscapes where the breeze finally met her back. Yeah, the breeze was Satan. Satan probably met her one day and said, hey, Lizzo, I agree with you. Life isn't unfair. This will be our connection. We're both mad at God because life is unfair. It wasn't very fair of you to be raised in the Detroit hood. It's no wonder you can't find any connection in your life. It's not your fault. God is unfair. You were raised in a family where you weren't even given a chance in hell of getting the connection that you wanted. That's the lie Satan told her. And she said, yeah, that's right. He said, I'll make you important. I'll make you my number one human. How'd you like that, Lizzo? For once in your life, you're no longer just a mat for people to step on. You are important. And that's why she lined up with Satan. You can see by the way she was raised. She felt like a piece of furniture. Okay. Somewhere in the range, she decided rules were meant to be built and broken, like trust and love and friendships and family. Because everything deserves the opportunity to change and grow. Well, that is true, Lizzo, but you're changing into a very toxic, unhealthy person. And you're growing into a monster. That's what you are. Yeah, she's growing all right into a monster. The only connection she has at this point in her life is with Satan. She doesn't have anything else. But she's so desperate for a connection, she'll take that if that's all she can get. So she broke rule number 1 on stage while singing a beautiful song. Dr. Jefferson, PhD. Scream! That would be the person that if she was proper and she was doing all the rules, she would have been a PhD in psychology. Scream for her to stop, but she didn't listen, and the tears flowed like rivers of emotion down her cheeks. Well, yeah, it's good to get all that suppressed emotion out. Unfortunately, not all the tears that fell were healthy tears. A lot of them were angry tears based on the lie that it was God's fault that she was raised with the family she had and that there was no way she could overcome it. I could be just as bitter as you, Lizzo, because my mother was a narcissist, okay? She screamed to throw me out on the streets when I was growing up. And I could have been just as bitter as you. But I had faith that whoever was running the whole shebang was a good being. I watched movies like The Greatest Story Ever Told and Jesus of Nazareth in 1977 and concluded that even though the family that raised me was as mean as hell and very unfair to me, that the one running the whole thing was good. And I was determined to find my place in that good universe. You have totally lost faith that the God who's running everything is good. Yeah, you believe the lie that he's evil. Simply because you were born into that family you were born with where you felt like you weren't given a chance. You had a chance, but you blew all your chances, okay? Okay, you blew it. Yeah. Everybody out there, despite what you think, even though you think all the doors are closed, all the windows are closed, there is a window open somewhere. If you don't see it, it's because you're blind, okay? And one day, when she finally fell in love, okay. And rule number 2 was broken when she grew older and saw the injustices of the world. I told you she's obsessed with this. Marching with hundreds in protest, she realized not everything needs to be pacified. The only problem is, Lizzo, you think the solution is to let Satan run everything. He's about as unfair as they come. The universe that he wants is filled with evil, injustice, suffering, and the only connection you're going to get in Satan's world is a big lust fest. Okay? That's the only connection you're going to get. You cannot have connection with another being if you don't get real with them. You say, well, Satan is real. No, he's not. He's not. He only acknowledges the side of him that's evil because he's trying to make a point to God. Okay? He believes that God is evil and that God's a hypocrite. And he's using you to help him make his point. And you're helping him beautifully right now. Every time you feed that anger inside of you. That anger, because that anger is that basically you're angry at God. You know, whenever we worry or fret or feel angry at injustices, you know who we're angry at? God. God. That's a losing battle, folks. You may say, well, God's not there. That's because you don't understand him. Yeah. And rule number 2 was broken when she grew older and saw the injustices of the world. Marching with hundreds in protest, she realized not everything needs to be pacified. Trying to understand God, think of us as like a bunch of maybe insects or little creatures, you know? He's the whole shebang, man. It would be, if he tried to explain himself to us, it would be like God trying to explain how he operates to a grasshopper, huh? Okay? Or maybe a little bug, you know? Huh? It's kind of difficult. You say, well, how do you know God is good? Because he gave me Brent. And Brent is marvelous. Anybody who would give me a partner like I have has got to be good. You say, well, I don't have someone like that, so God is evil. The reason you don't have someone like that is because you're a coward. The reason I have Brent in my life, and you'll get this from the Gail series, is because I had the courage to be vulnerable, bare, and authentic with him. Yeah, I wrote him letters stating how I really feel about things. Not how I was supposed to feel. See, this is what Lizzo does. She puts on different pairs of shoes depending on which group she's with and what rules they have. Like right now, she is a major SJW, okay? She's a social justice warrior. And she's wearing the shoes of a social justice warrior icon, okay? That isn't the answer, simply because none of us is a label, okay? But that's it. Those are her pairs of shoes. She doesn't have the courage to break out of her box. Just like I didn't for many years. Brent gave me, when I started writing letters to Brent and got real to him and realized that he loved me just the way I am, that's when I began to get out of my box and started being real with him. You say, how can you, what do you mean being real? It means don't give the answers you're supposed to give. Well, my church says this is the way I'm supposed to feel. I'm not allowed to have any sexual attraction to anyone but my monogamous husband. So if I feel attracted to anyone, I won't even admit I'm doing it. That was me in my 20s. Okay? I wouldn't admit that I had polyamorous tendencies. I wouldn't even go there. It was like, you even mention it, boom, okay? Now, this is what Lizzo's like in her little old black, I don't know, her hip-hop culture, SJW. She won't even go there if something about how she really feels doesn't fit in her little SJW black hip-hop culture box. Okay? She won't even go there. That means she's not going to get real. There might be some aspects of her that don't fit in the SJW black hip-hop culture box, but she refuses to go there. And she won't be real. She memorizes the rules for her group and makes sure she fits in, and she's the prime example of her group. I'm finally important. I meet all the rules of my group. You're still a rule follower, Lizzo. You're still a rule follower. Just different rules than the ones you grew up with, that's all. You're just a coward. You don't have the courage to let the gray areas come out. Not everything in life is black and white. And one day when she finally fell in love, she broke rule number 3. No matter how much training she'd done, she couldn't help but take everything her lover said and did personal. Of course, what lovers say and do to us is meant to be taken personally usually, but it was okay. But see, she's scared to be a person. She doesn't even know who she is. Well, how do I find out? You're going to find out. This is how you find out who you are. When you get in a relationship with a friend or anybody, and they ask your opinion on something, when you answer them, answer how you truly feel deep in your core. Not how you're supposed to feel. Not how your group expects you to say you feel, but how you really feel. Let me give an example of how this works. When I was growing up in my church, okay, I really was kind of lackadaisical about homosexuality. I didn't really care if they wanted to go out and, be gay or whatever. I didn't care. I was like, to each his own. If they're not hurting me, I don't care. Now, if I had stated how I really felt among my church friends, I would have said that. I would have said, why are you guys going out there and making such a big deal about all the gays out there? If they want to be gay, let them be that, you see? Now, if I was brave and true to how I felt, I would have said that. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? I would have been real. Another area I would have been real is when I was in college, I was often attracted to more than one man at a time. I mean, I had a desire to have like a deep connection with 2 guys at once. That was where my polyamory was coming out. But if a Christian guy that I was interested in even hinted that I was like that, I'd say, oh, no. And then I would completely cut off the relationship with the other guy that to make it appear like I was monogamous. I was trying to push myself into the monogamous mold to be accepted. This is what I'm talking about, okay? You might say, well, if you were like that with Brent, he never would have fallen in love with you. It's hard. I think he would have. Because he would have seen enough of the real Gail in there that he loved and admired, and there would have been a connection there. And even though he's monogamous, we could have worked things out, and like the way right now we've got a beautiful relationship. Yeah, but the point is, you're not going to get any connection if you're not willing to be real, okay? And then we're going to kind of fast forward a little bit. Let's go to, my allergies are making my eyes water. Let's go to when, after I divorced my ex, when I realized that if I stayed in that marriage, I'd be dead within a couple of years. That's what Jesus told me in prayer, which would have been correct. And I realized this new group that I was with, I kind of changed my shoes, kind of like Lizzo. Okay, she changed her shoes. And I decided, okay, now I am the hot woman with a bunch of celebrity guys that want me. And so I changed my shoes, and I decided to be hot with inner beauty, right? Inner and outward beauty. And I figured that being monogamous wasn't so cool with this new group. I had no idea Brent was monogamous. I thought he was, like I was. And I denied my asexuality, my asexual leanings. Now, I'm not telling you to put on, I'm not going to put the asexual label on myself, but what I'm saying is I really actually thought all this sex talk was kind of boring. But I wouldn't dare say that to these guys. Like, oh, no, if I say that to them, I won't be accepted. But let's just put it this way. If I was truly myself, when my men decided to give me a marriage list, I would have said, no, don't give me a marriage list. I don't need the marriage list. This is boring. I don't even give a flip if a bunch of Hollywood guys are interested in me. I don't care. All I need is just a connection with one, and I'm happy. Now, if I was totally myself, I would have said that. This is what I'm talking about. I wouldn't have let other people define me. See, this is what Lizzo does. She's letting Satan define her. And Baphomet define her, because Baphomet is behind the SJW movement. He said, they're saying, oh, Lizzo, you can belong with us. We don't care that you're fat. You're cool because you think like we do. Just adopt our rules and hype them all up and advertise them to everybody. So yeah, she's basically changed her rule book. She's still following the rules. She's still a coward. She still doesn't have the guts to be who she really is. I wouldn't be surprised if she thinks some of Satan's rules are stupid. But do you think she has the guts to say it? No way. She's a coward. She can't own up to her activities because she's a coward. Okay. Melissa began to fall for her feelings. Her feelings gave life purpose. They weren't always logical, as feelings seldom are. And one day she finally fell in love. She broke rule number 3. No matter how much training she'd done, she couldn't help but take everything her lover said and did personal, but it was okay. Because in all her resistance, she realized breaking rules was her power. You ain't breaking any rules, honey. You're still following them. How much I dare you to break Satan's rules? Do you have the guts to do it? Laurie McBride had the guts to do it. I got to say one thing for Laurie McBride. When she was the Antichrist, she was petty, vulgar, lustful, and mean, but she wasn't a coward. I got to give her that. And neither was Zach Knight. But you, Lizzo, are a coward. She never owns up to her activities. She always tries to make it look like somebody else did her evil. She's a coward. She can't break the rules. She still can't break the rules. She thinks she's breaking the rules. No, she's not. She just adopted a new set of rules, that's all. Melissa began to fall for her feelings. Her feelings gave life purpose. They weren't always logical, as feelings seldom are. They were sloppy and embarrassing and rude and so fucking uncomfortable. But they were hers and they were real. No, they're not real. They're Satan's rules, Satan's feelings. She's kind of figured out what Satan's beef is, and she's made those hers so she can belong to her new group and feel like she's something less than a piece of furniture. And when she sat alone sipping wine, staring at the moon, they were the only ones still by her side, ready to break the rules for her because they loved her. And she finally loved them back. To be honest with you, you might say, do you think they loved her? Let me tell you what's going on with her. She's attracting people like herself who feel like they've got a chip on their shoulder because they feel like the reason they can't get whatever it is they want. She's attracting the hypersexuals who want a better sex life or who want to have unbridled lust and sex and can't have it because it's condemned, okay? Or she's attracting people like herself who are a combination of hypersexual and want a connection because they don't have the romance or the guy or, that they want. She's saying, well, the reason Laurie McBride got right is because she's better looking than me. It's not my fault I was born fat. You weren't born fat, Lizzo. You're fat because you eat comfort food. Because you're a coward and you don't have the courage to be real in order to get that connection that you want. That's the truth, whether you like it or not. Okay? It's because you're never going to get that connection that relation. You say, well, she's got a boyfriend. Oh, it's all for show. There's no real, you can't have a true love relationship or even a genuine friendship with anyone if it's not based on you being real with somebody else who's being real. Okay? And the first step to getting real is you got to quit the show. And you're right, Lizzo, you got to break the rules sometimes. You need to be real. And that's not easy for a person like me or Lizzo to learn. When you're used to spending your whole life putting on different pairs of shoes, it is very difficult to say, this is how I really feel about this. You know, if the people in my group don't like it, well, you might be surprised, Lizzo. What's going to happen if you have the courage to be real? There are going to be some courageous people out there that are going to respect you. They're going to resonate. You say, well, I'm being real. No, you're not. You're not being real. You're being angry. You're angry at the unfairness of life. And you're following all of Satan's rules. You know, even when Lori McBride was with Satan, she bucked him sometimes. And so Satan started beating her up. That's why she left. And even Zach Knight and Rule 13, when they were with Satan, they were not quite following Satan's rules. Lizzo is pretty good at following Satan's rules. She's a coward. She's a coward. Anyways, here's my video, you guys, and my take on Lizzo. Yeah, we don't know where she is. My guess is she's probably waiting for me to do something so that my Gail shield goes down, and then she's going to try to take my Brent from me. Oh, she's as jealous as hell that I've got Brent in my life. He is the epitome of connection. I mean, I've got the best connection with him. She is so jealous that I have what she so desperately wants. And she thinks it's so unfair that I have it. She was raised in a richer family than me. I will grant you, I mean, I wasn't raised in a rich place, but yeah, I definitely was in a place better than a studio apartment in Southeast Houston, that's for sure, with roaches, yeah. But I'm going to tell you this, some rich kids can tell you that if you're raised in a rich family, but there's no love in your home, you can feel like you're raised in poverty. I wasn't raised in a rich family, but there wasn't love in my home. And I could have been just as bitter as you. In fact, my sister, she's turned out pretty much a disaster. A lot of it has to do with whether you've got faith in the beings who are running the whole thing, okay? You've totally lost faith in them. You just don't believe that goodness is running the whole thing. And it's because you think it's impossible for you to get a connection. And you know what your problem is? You're too scared to break the rules. The rules just change, that's all. You just drop one rule book and go to another. You need to write your own rule book about who you really are. Not who Satan wants you to be, not who your father wanted you to be, and not who the SJWs want you to be, but who Lizzo really wants to be. And until you do that, you'll never find that connection that you think that you do want. That's what she wants. That's what she wants. She'll never get it until she stops being a coward. She is a flamin' coward.
In a world of secrets, where darkness reigns, there's a warrior rising, breaking free from chains. She's Gail Schuler, her heart's pure and strong. With the power of love, she'll right the world's wrongs. Yeah, fighting against the devil with order. She's the first, a passionate crusader. Stand by the side of conquer it all. Through space battles and time.